Welcome to the Better Than Me podcast with John Conover. This is a podcast designed for me to interview business leaders where I get to learn alongside of them some of the tips and ideas that they've used to build business success. And then those of you that decide to tune into the podcast, you get the opportunity to learn right alongside me. And today I've got the privilege of interviewing Taj Simmons. Taj is with eXp Realty, 13 years in the real estate business. And his wife, Tara, his son, Julian, they're here in Berks County, and they're great members of the community. And so, Taj, I am just blessed to call you a friend, but also I've watched you grow your business. We've had so many business conversations over the years. And so I don't know everything about what you do. I know enough to know you're successful. I know enough to know that you've got ideas, and you're always looking to polish up that marketing plan and do things that get you out in front of your clients. So welcome to the show, and thanks so much for being on.
Absolutely, John. Thanks for having me. I'm honored to be a part of your podcast, and I want to congratulate you on your podcast and all your success so far.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about, maybe just start out with, what got you into real estate, and maybe in the beginning, because I think for a lot of entrepreneurs, as long as they're entrepreneurs and not wantrepreneurs, right? I think for a lot of entrepreneurs that are either self-employed or they run a business, I think they get started out of passion, and then right away they face challenges in their business. And so maybe why real estate for you? And then what were some of the early challenges you faced?
Okay, so I came back home from college, and I got interested in buying investment properties. And I had no clue what I was doing, right? So this is years before I got my real estate license. I had no clue what I was doing, no direction. I just knew that real estate, it really wasn't that popular amongst my friends at the time. So I figured, hey, let me see if I can make a little bit of money. And, I did that a few times, made some money, and then didn't think anything of it, right? So got into corporate, doing corporate finance and accounting. And I did well. I was pretty good at it. And I just knew that wasn't what I wanted to do for 40, 45 years, right? So I got to thinking, I'm like, what in the world can I do where I can kind of determine how much money I make, what my schedule looks like, or so I thought at the time. And I went back to real estate because, I did fairly well. So I decided to get my real estate license. And I kept my full-time job working in corporate. And the first year I did 3 transactions. The second year I did 3 transactions, and I'm like, this isn't as easy as I thought, right?
Sure.
So that's kind of why I got my real estate license, and this was back in 2010. In the beginning, I kind of noticed that there were going to be a lot of challenges, right? Because when you start a business, or you get your real estate license, or your financial advisor, right? They prepare you for getting the license, starting your business, how to get your LLC to start a business, but no one really tells you how to operate a business, how to be successful at a high level. So in the beginning, I faced those challenges, right? I didn't have any direction, no guidance as to how to create a successful business. So there were 2 main challenges that I faced. One was cash flow, right? Because you're selling properties, or you're doing your business and you do well, but nobody prepares you on the months that you're not going to do well, right? So I had a huge cash flow issue. So I spent everything that I made, right? And then the second thing is just the guidance, right? I was doing a little bit of everything, right? No direction. So I was maybe naive because I didn't know exactly what to do. I was digging wide, not deep. And that was a challenge. And I wasn't able to grow because of those 2 things. When I go back to that first thing, when I talk about money, you start operating from a sense of fear, right? Scarcity.
Yep, there it is.
Yeah, scarcity. So you're not providing a high level of service, right? Because you're thinking about your next paycheck.
No, I think on top of that, you might also be putting out a vibration to your clients that they pick
Oh,
up
absolutely.
on. And I think it's like they could smell it on you.
They can.
Yeah.
They can. Yeah, you
Yeah.
get what's called in our field like commission breath.
Whew.
Right.
I'm going to steal that one.
No,
Uh,
it's insane.
you said something early on. I'd love for you to comment even further on it if you could. And that is, I think a lot of people think you've got to jump off the cliff and build the parachute on the way down.
Yeah.
And this idea of you kept your corporate job for a period of time, you built this on the side. Really what you were doing is you were testing the waters to see, is this going to be something I can pick up? It obviously became something, but early on you mentioned, a small amount of transactions, and that corporate job was able to keep you afloat. And then that takes some humility, right? I don't
It
think it's
does.
all about guts when you go into
Yeah.
business. I think you got to be smart. And so maybe talk about what your part-time, this is huge, I think, for a lot of entrepreneurs today, is what did part-time look like before you could go full-time?
Sacrifice.
Hmm.
If I can sum it up in one word, it's sacrifice. I sacrificed time away from the family. I sacrificed sleep, friendships,
Hmm.
because I knew that in the long run, even though I was doing 3 transactions first year, 3 transactions the second year, I knew that this was an opportunity that I couldn't pass up. Right. So, I mean, I would work my full-time job. On my lunch break, I would go out, show properties,
Wow.
come home, eat dinner, go back out, show properties. And then once the family went to sleep, I was up studying, just trying to perfect my craft. And I think the lack of business allowed me to really dive in and get an understanding of the business. Right. So that allowed me to sharpen up my skills. And then, come year 3, I did 10 deals in 6 months. And
Wow.
that's when kind of the shift, I said, okay, I know I can do this.
Well, that was one of my questions, and you just kind of covered it. And I'd love for you to dive even deeper on that one as well. And one of the questions I wanted to ask was, when was that moment that you kind of got it over the hump, and then you had that confidence that, yeah, I'm gonna do this. And you went from 3 in a year to 10 in 6 months. That's quite a jump. For some that hear that, they might say, well, he went from 3 to, basically you're going from 3 a year to 20 a year as far as your pace.
Yeah.
But it wasn't overnight. So there was 2 years leading up to that jump.
Yeah.
When you got to that point, 10 and 6 months, maybe walk us through the next like 2 to 3 years in your business. What did you learn because I think success can teach us lessons as well. What did some of that success start to teach you or inform you of?
Yeah. It allowed me to believe that it was possible, right? Not easy, but it was possible.
Yeah.
And it allowed me to look back at what I did to get there, right? And just kind of mimic what I did to jump from the 3 to the basically on track to do 20 that third year.
You're finding out what works, and then you put that
You're
on
finding
repeat.
out what works, but yet I was still dabbling in everything. And I read something, it's actually a scripture. A double-minded man is unstable in all things. Right. Like,
Powerful.
so I was dabbling in all kinds of things with very little focus. So I had to dive in, like I said earlier, dig deep, not wide. And
Right,
I had
right.
to put it out in 4 steps, basically. I had to perfect the first step of business is attracting your client,
Yep,
right? And then from there, you have to learn how to convert. And
yep.
then from there, you have to learn how to deliver. And now we're at that scale phase.
Scaling. Wow.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
you
So
have a team now, right?
I have a team. Yeah. So it's myself and 3 other agents.
And so that's part of the scaling process,
That's part
correct?
of the scaling process, which I'm sure
Hmm.
we'll talk about a little bit later. But I guess I first had to learn how to track business, right? So now that I had that free time where I wasn't into the corporate world, I was
Hmm.
able to go out and have business related conversations every day.
Every day. It's interesting I've never heard that progression before I'll relate it to what I just heard from you to what I do in my business, which is I teach marketing, how to present to a client, how to convert a client, and then how to service a client on the back end.
Okay.
And And then we have a fifth component called leadership. You could call it scaling, which is how do you duplicate what you've done with others in your organization? And so, but I like how simple you've kept it, which is you attract a client, you convert them, which means they've signed a contract to do business with you,
or at least or at least have a like you're attracting
right.
them. Now they're coming in for a consultation.
And but then you still got to deliver, right?
We still have to deliver a high level of service.
Where do you think the majority of realtors or those in business, out of those four progressions, where do you think most of them get held up?
I would say converting.
Okay.
Converting. Yeah, I would say converting. And I think they try to wing it, right? And I think this in business in general. Why not use scripts, right? You go to the doctor's office, right? They have you fill something out and they're looking at your chart, right? They're not just winging it. They're looking at everything. So why in business are we afraid to, even if we have a no card, say, okay, well, hey, these are the questions that I have to ask you, right? Because if you don't do that, I feel like you're doing your client a disservice.
Yeah, a mechanic has a checklist, a doctor has your chart.
Absolutely.
You're a realtor. You have a client chart,
Absolutely.
I love that. I really love that. If you could go back in time, some of the things now that, because I want to get to where you're going in the future. I want to get to what's good right now. Obviously, it's been a tougher year this last year, being a realtor with the amount of listings.
Yeah.
But those that have prepared well are doing fine. And so obviously there's probably some things you could comment on that. But before we get to all that, there was this bridge from the time you believed you could do it. There was this bridge you crossed to get to where you are today. And it took years.
Yep.
And there were things probably that could have taken that 5 or 6 year window and turned it into 2 years. I look back on any business and I go, yeah, what were the things that I did that were either time wasters, or if I could change anything about the first 2 or 3 years. And I mean, after you believed you could do it, right? It was like at that point, you started building momentum. There was still trial and error probably happening. You go back in time and you help younger Taj collapse timeframes. What are you coaching him to do? What are you telling him to do?
Hire a coach.
Oh my gosh.
Hire a coach or find a mentor.
And who's your mentor today?
Well, I have quite a few mentors in the real estate field. So when I got to the point, I had a number in mind where I wanted to hit 100 grand. Like that was like the magic number at one point. And I hit that number, but then I was stuck. Right. So what I did was I partnered up. I was a solo agent. I partnered up and joined a team. I put my ego aside and joined a team with one of the top producing agents in our area at the time. And I learned. Right. So I learned as much as I possibly could.
You reached your own limits. And it shows up in income. I mean, a lot of people don't want to admit this, but most people reach a ceiling. They reach a plateau.
Yeah.
We call it getting stuck. But really what it is you've reached your potential. Congratulations. You reached your potential. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
But then without that mentor, without that coach, your potential doesn't grow. It doesn't change.
Yeah. Yeah. So I joined a coaching company, and that took my business. It doubled my business in a year.
Wow.
And I went from working 7 days to 5 days.
Okay.
So I worked less, earned more, provided a higher level of service through systems and procedures. And that's what the main thing of that coaching company taught me. So I stayed with that coaching company for a while. Then I said, okay, well, the systems and procedures, they're down. Now I need to get the mental right. So I partnered up with another coaching company. And granted, I was using the proceeds that I made, like the difference from what I made before, to reinvest in myself. And it was costly. I mean, the second coaching company was 20 grand a year.
Wow.
And, that took me up even a higher level. So I would say if I went back, I would either align myself with a mentor and or hire a coach
sooner than you did
at an earlier
phase.
Yep.
Wow. Talk to us about some of the preparation or some of the things that you did maybe in the last 3 years. I'm sure COVID, the pandemic probably threw a wrench in things. What were some of the things you had to do to adapt and evolve? Maybe then talk about, well, actually just start there. Was there any adapting or evolving that had to happen through the pandemic?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we weren't able to go out and show properties for a while, right?
Wow.
And then even when we were able to go back out, some people were scared to even get out and go out and look at properties. So we had to get really good with Zoom consultations, right? We had to do virtual showings
Wow.
and things like that. But in that slow time, it allowed me to go back and look at what worked and what didn't work,
Right.
right? And then basically work on our standard operating procedures. So now we have a manual. We run just like a corporate company, right? We
Hmm.
have standard operating procedures. So I was able to use that time to really get that in order. And that kind of streamlined our whole process and kind of got us to where we're at right now.
Yeah, a lot of people they look at the slow times and they get desperate or they get filled with maybe anxiety about slow times. And winners, they use the slow times that they go, you know what, it's time for me to get better. I'm not
Yeah.
going to waste this moment. If I was closing, 5 or 6 more deals right now, I wouldn't even have time to look at our systems,
Yeah.
right? And no, I love that.
Now,
Leading up
John,
to
that
go
actually goes back to what I was talking about earlier with the finances, right?
right,
Do you remember before I said I was spending everything, right? So what
right,
I did early on, well, not early on, but once I learned, I paid myself the same amount every single month, right?
smart.
So when you have good months, you're still stacking away that money in your business account or whatever other account, right? And you're paying
Right.
yourself the same amount. So when the pandemic came,
Hmm.
I wasn't really affected.
Wow. They call that in my world living below your means. It
It's simple, but
is very
yet
simple.
a lot of people don't do it.
Talk to us a little bit about leading up to this last 12 months.
Mhm.
What were some of the things that you maybe did in advance that set you up for success in a year where a lot of realtors have struggled, and especially new ones, right?
Yeah.
You're well established, that helps, but you've also now, and I guess where the question's coming from is I've watched you take on new associates in your business.
Mhm.
So they're new going through all this. The preparation you've done in advance had to help them get
Yeah.
started during a tough year. Maybe comment on that.
Yeah. So really what we did is we doubled down on our database, right? The people that know, like, and love us. We really, really started to pour into them because that's who we're leaning on now when the times are difficult. Like, we're not out searching for new business. We serviced our customers at a high level and provided so much value that now they are calling us and saying, "Hey, you have to use Taj. You have to use his team." So that's I took that time to really, really dig into that to the database.
So thousands and thousands of names and emails and contacts that you're
Yep.
in regular communication with and
Yeah,
top of
weekly.
mind
Weekly. We're sending out
weekly.
a weekly email, providing some sort of value. And then I think that's the important thing. We're not really asking for business. We're providing value.
Love that.
We provide so much value that people don't feel comfortable going anywhere else.
I love
And
that.
we have the mindset that if you're using anybody else, you're doing yourself a disservice because of the value that we provide.
Well, and for those listening, I don't just like Taj and have, respect his grind. He actually helped me buy my first home. And so I've used Taj and I've experienced firsthand his professionalism. So let's talk about the future. I saw something this morning. We can get technical if you want. You could talk about
Okay.
real estate in the market if you want. But
Mhm.
I saw something this morning that has a Fed outlook where rates, they're looking by this time next year for rates to be about 100 basis points lower, meaning the Fed was actually going to probably go into a cutting phase. Where do you see that affecting real estate? Talk about the market right now, what you're seeing.
John, I think in any business, right? Real estate, any business is happening every single day, right? People think there's so much scarcity. There's an abundance of business. It's just a matter of going out and having those conversations. So regardless of what the rate is, people are going to move, right? People are going to invest in your world, right? Regardless of what's going on, business is happening. So we have to kind of step away from that mindset that, oh, because of this, we can't operate at this level. I mean, that's simply false.
It's funny to hear you say that. I mean, it's all mentality, it's all mindset. Um, you've done all the work in preparation to put yourself in front of a larger group of people. So obviously the funnel got bigger,
Yeah.
and that prepares you for a year. What's going on right now with, you could talk locally, since that's probably your expertise, but are you finding more first-time home buyers? Are you or not? Are you finding more investors buying rentals? Like, where's the market concentrated right now?
Yeah, so we're seeing a little bit of everything. Right now, obviously, inventory is very low. Demand is high. So we're seeing properties go for above asking price, meaning that if it's listed for 200,000, we're seeing offers 230, 240,000. We're seeing a lot of cash deals. So what
Wow.
I'm telling people is just prepare for that, right? Maybe now's not the best time to purchase or the best time to sell, right? It all depends on your level of being comfortable in the market, and if you are prepared, right? So I'm not forcing anything on anyone. We're just educating on the current market. Like I said, low inventory creates a seller's market, but there's still opportunities for investors, still opportunities for buyers. You just have to strategically put your offer in to put you in the best position. And sometimes it may take 4, 5, 6 different properties and different offers. But what I tell people is what's meant to happen will happen. You just have to be patient. But there's an opportunity for buyers and sellers. It's who's representing you and how they're presenting those opportunities. I mean, we have to get creative. We have to be proactive and not reactive. So some of the things that I'm doing right now is we're looking back over the past 3, 4 years of people when the market wasn't this hot. We're looking at people that couldn't sell their house before and their property expired off the market, meaning they didn't get any offers or they didn't accept an offer. And we're going back and calling those people saying, hey, are you interested? We
Now's the
may
time.
have a potential buyer for you. And get you even more than you were thinking about before, right? So we have to be proactive and not reactive.
Oh, everything you just said made me think of something worth mentioning to up and coming business owners, whether you're in the real estate world or not. If you're we'll call it, if you're a professional, right? And there's going to be times, I call them forest fires, where you might have, almost 2,000 realtors in the area, and 500 of them might not renew their license next year.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And then that actually creates less competition for you as a realtor that made it through that time where listings were down. The preparation you did, you didn't get burned out. Right. Correct. So now what happens is you come out of, and this, I think everybody needs to understand this as a philosophy. It wasn't just you having cash on the side for a lean month or two. It was about preparing your business to survive through the different economic cycles, and you've done all that. So now what the reward is on the other side of this, you're more established with less competition, and that happens in every field.
And what I'm seeing, John, the people that prepare, right, they do better in a down market.
Sure, they separate themselves. There's more separation. There's more value. And it's actually, it gets exposed.
Yeah, exactly. It gets exposed, right? Because when things are going good, anybody's brother, sister, and cousin can help them, right?
The rising tide.
In any profession. But
the rising tide lifts all the boats.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So now the people who are actually good at their craft are getting rewarded. It's becoming more apparent. People that bought during a tough time, or there was 5 offers on a house and you got them the deal. They remember that you went the extra mile. So in some ways we could say it helps your business.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely.
I love that. How is your business evolving now? And maybe talk about the next 12 to 18 months. Where do you see Taj's business going? Is there a certain side of real estate you prefer to work in? Is there a niche market that you're like, this is going to become my bread and butter? I don't know what the answer is. Comment on how is it evolving now? Where do you see yourself going in the next 12 to 18 months?
So we're taking advantage of changing technology right now. We're looking to grow and expand, and we're using technology to help us get there, right? Like we talked about Zoom earlier, right? It allows us to reach more people. Um, yeah, technology is huge. My main focus right now is I'm trying to help as many real estate professionals accomplish their goals as possible. Whether that's, providing value, sharing the tips that I learned. I have become an open book,
Hmm.
right? I feel that in this phase of my life right now, I'm kind of being led to help as many people as possible. I'm not the number one real estate agent in the world or even our area, right? But I feel like I have a lot of information that I could share that can help people. I've went through all the ups and downs, right? And I just want to help as many people as possible. For one, that's going to you help more people, you end up helping yourself. And two, I'm interacting with these people every day. So it's going to make my transactions easier if they're as sharp as they could be.
That is a unique side of the real estate business where you are forced to work with your competition
Yeah.
in the deals. And I know in my space, it doesn't work that way. We don't work with other advisors. But no, I love that. You brought up technology, Zoom. Maybe what's one other piece of technology that's helping you guys evolve right now?
So that's a good question. I think one of the best pieces of technology that we're using right now is our CRM, right? And utilizing that to the fullest, right? Take advantage of everything that has to offer. It allows us to stay in contact with, stay in communication with our people in our database, right? And we could continue to provide value, and it leverages our time.
Yeah, collapsing timeframes. You mentioned, I love the shift in focus where you're, because you said something earlier that I think was a humble thing to say. Oh, I'm not the top, or I'm not the top financial advisor in the county, right? So it's not, but I don't think it's about being the top. I think it's about being willing.
Yeah,
And there's so many people not willing to help and coach and share that sometimes just being willing and available and offering, hey, here's some stepping stones. These are some things that work for me. I think that goes a long way. And obviously now you're growing a team, so you're influencing, their success, which is really, really cool. Part of leadership and scaling your business is pouring into others and not just being a guy that
absolutely.
does transactions.
Absolutely.
Um, in commercial, investors, rentals, single family homes, what does Taj like what does he like doing the best? Like, what's his favorite side of the real estate market to work in?
Residential, man, because you're actually making a huge impact on families' lives. And I think once you realize that and take the money side away from it, the money you're going to be rewarded by the universe. As crazy as that sounds, you will be rewarded. But I love seeing a family not realizing they can purchase a property, right? And get into a home. I love seeing the kids get to pick out their bedrooms and they're like super excited. That to me is priceless. It's
Man,
priceless.
Taj,
So
that's awesome.
I love the residential side. And actually I got back into helping investors, right? Because they're trying to build generational wealth or whatever it is. So I'm working with a few new investors just to help them build their business. And I like that as well. It gets me back to my accounting side where I get to use numbers and spreadsheets and things like that. So I don't dabble too much in commercial, but I would say the number one thing is just seeing the look on people's face when they get to the settlement table and just realize that they've accomplished their dream. And I was a part of that. That's
That's
huge.
awesome.
Yeah.
Love it. The fulfillment factor, getting it away from you and getting it on the person.
Yeah,
There's a
absolutely.
lot of nuggets you shared today. I really hope people are paying attention. The devil's in the details. I really hope people are paying attention to, I call them common denominators. People are going to listen to this podcast and others, and they're going to find things out. Oh, Taj said this, and I've heard that before. A lot of what we talk about on podcasts like this isn't groundbreaking. A lot of it is, I think for a lot of entrepreneurs, they need to hear, the common denominators of success. There are things that you do that other successful people have done. And there's also some things that you shared today that I think for me were groundbreaking, right? I think there were things for me, Taj, today that you pulled out. I love the progression of, attracting the client all the way through scaling, and the simplicity you brought to any business that adopted that mentality. What closing thoughts or final thoughts that you want to get off your chest, things that you're like, all right, if I'm going to leave the audience with something, I'm going to leave them with, and that might be putting you on the spot.
No, that's a good question. I would just say control the controllables.
Wow. There it is.
Control the controllables. That's it, man. Work hard.
I'm going to get you a mic so you can do a mic drop next time. Well, Taj, thank you so much for being on this morning. This will go out in a couple of weeks, and I'm excited for everyone to hear all the value that you've brought, and best of luck this year. Not that you need it, but wishing you and your family well, and
John,
wishing
same to you, man.
And your team. All right.
I appreciate the opportunity. Keep crushing it. And thank you again.
All right. Take care.
All right, buddy. Take care.